has affected the AU campaign of silencing the guns in Africa. Over 1 million displaced and thousands have died. Now the Tigray conflict is on the United Nations Human Rights Commission agenda. Former South African President Kgalema Motlanthe says more could have been done to avoid this crisis.
When we were there, it was about a week ahead of the AU silencing the guns summit. And President Chisano was at pains to persuade the Prime Minister to allow us to identify interlocutors and to help with mediation. But he was adamant that, if there's a problem of law enforcement in any country, it never really, gets to be elevated to mediation by outsiders. So, and he was super confident that this is something they would bring under control within minimum time. But here we are, it's more than a year now, and the war has escalated, and I know President Obasanjo is now trying to mediate a solution to that conflict. But when we were there, the Prime Minister was adamant that they did not need anyone's mediation here.
And he didn't mince his words on the failure of the AU to act timelessly.
I really think the AU has been pussyfooting rather than taking a firm stand, precisely because Ethiopia, Addis Ababa is the seat of the AU itself. And now, with the mobilization and the conflict, most of the AU full-time personnel have had to move to Kenya. And I think the AU has not been firm enough from the word-go. It has been approaching this matter half-heartedly because, the silencing of the guns program was an important program for the AU. But here we are. The conflict is being allowed to escalate. And of course, what's going to happen is that the superpowers will get involved because it also affects the region, as it were, particularly the Sudan, Somalia, and so on.
The former president, who also led the AU observer mission during the elections in Gambia, says the elections were conducted under a peaceful environment. He says, while there are issues that need attention in relation to the electoral system, the voting process has a historic perspective.
The Gambia and Sierra Leone were colonies of Great Britain, and following Ghana's independence, they also started demanding their independence. And the colonial masters then said, no, we can't grant you independence because you are illiterate, your people are not educated. And they then devised this simple system whereby registered voters are compiled in a voters' roll, and each polling center handles anything between 300 and 800. And so, depending on the number of candidates, each candidate in each polling station has a dedicated bucket, which they call a drum. And the bucket is painted in the colors of that candidate's party, and the photo of that candidate is pasted on that bucket. And so in this recent election, they had 6 candidates. And so in each polling station, there would be 6 buckets, each one dedicated to a candidate, and as I said, with the colors of that candidate's party and the face of the candidate pasted on the bucket. And you know, the process of so when a voter presents you know, himself or herself at the polling station, the party agents are there. They all have the voter's roll, and each one, including the IEC staff and the presiding officer, they then find the name on the ballot paper and tick that name, and the voter is then given the token and disappears behind because the buckets, which are in our case the you know, ballot boxes, are kept behind closed doors, and so the voter walks in there. It takes less than 10 seconds, and everyone hears the ringing of the bell when the token or the marble falls into the bucket, and they know it's confirmation that the person has voted.
Sophie Mokoena, SABC News, Johannesburg.